stuff I brought, I mean, you can see I pack light when it comes to demo stuff. But I want to share with you some of the cool new tools from Tonic. Let's just take these out and look at them for a moment, shall we? Because if you didn't think a scissor could be sexy, they can.
They are very.
Yeah. When you look at them, you're like, are they really that much better looking black?
Yes.
The answer is yes.
Yes.
You'd have to buy the black ones.
Yes.
Yeah. Because everyone that watched Facebook Live, they're like, I am fine with the red. Whoa, those look really
And
nice.
they'll match my craft beautifully,
They're
much
good.
better than the red ones.
Yeah, and when they get paint on them, it's really good because any color goes good with black,
Exactly.
right? Whether you have
Yeah.
blue paint or pink paint on it.
Exactly.
All right. Let me just take out a few things. We'll go through everything. This is really important, actually. It's a razor blade for certain things. All right. So, any preferences? No, just do what I want to do?
Anything.
I love your board. I'm so excited about your blending.
Game changer.
Very
Because
excited
it doesn't
about
matter
that.
what we do in our creative world, we always need a space to do it on. It's that simple. Yep, that to me is what makes it simple. So this is also important. And I'll talk a little bit about it. For those of you that are shooting some videos, there's just little things. I know we can always sell them fancy things, but I think sometimes as creative people, we just need the obvious right in front of us. So I'll clear this and we'll introduce you to this thing, this surface. This is the Minimap Tonic, and what it is a tempered glass mat, okay? So it's a very durable glass. The printing is actually underneath it, so you don't have to worry about what material you use on there. The printing is not going to wear off, come off if you use solvents, if you use a razor blade. Nothing is ever going to scrape off because it's printed underneath it. But underneath the board is also really important because this board has little feet on there. Hope there was nothing written like, hi Tim, hi everyone. I should have checked that before I started, but now I know, we're good. Simon, don't write any notes tomorrow.
You're a winner.
Because it'd be like, yeah, you're a winner. But I put these little feet on there and I had them attach these for a reason because as a crafter, as a maker, I've always had the challenge for every single creative year of my life, and that is maintaining my workspace. I don't care how big my craft table is, when I start making, everything seems to come right back in. And I can start with a 3-foot workspace and end up working in 6 inches of space because all of my product creeps in. I'm like, if we could just raise this off just a little bit, it's going to create this barrier that whatever I put on the outside, I don't know how it does it, but it finds its way back. And here, it's going to stop it. It gives you this surface. And what this surface is designed to do is really be your workspace and your messy space. Okay, so this side has a removable craft mat that is silicone on the back, okay, so it keeps it from sliding around. It is a completely non-stick surface. You can clean it with hot water, with solvents, put it in the dishwasher, whatever you want to do, but I use it because it makes cleaning this off really easy. Okay, if I get dried glue or paint or texture paste or anything, I can easily clean this off, I can peel this off, and I can go in the sink and wash it. But what it reveals is this part of the media mat. Now the media mat is designed with a black surface. I just like the surface. I find it much easier on the eyes to see what it is I'm working on. But this space that is exposed becomes a palette. And I know that so many people like to color, they like to watercolor, they like to do all sorts of things. And I always wanted a space that if I'm working, and I like to work mostly with my inks or with a lot of liquids, maybe I don't have an ink palette, but I know that I'm going to have markers or I'm going to have ink pads, I'm going to have all those mediums that I know how to watercolor with it, right? I know that I want to get the use out of them. So I also wanted to create a space that was user-friendly for what we had. And so the whole point of this is that I can go in with my cube inks, any 1x1 ink, and I can press it right onto the glass and make a palette, and I can see the color, because by printing in white, it actually works almost like a light box. It's not illuminated, it looks like it's illuminated, it's not plugged in, but that white and that space under there gives it that dimension where all of my colors just illuminate right on the surface. And so I can take my ink pads, that's why I did this little spot, so it works for creative convenience of these little cubes. But let's face it, in our ink world, these are trendy, right? Everyone's doing this. And even if you're working with solvent inks, it's still glass. So if you wanted to color with your archival inks or anything like that, you can still work on the glass. Now, a lot of other mediums work on this glass too. Maybe we have markers, like a distress marker. I can scribble this on, and a marker works so different on glass than it does on a non-stick surface, right? Take a look what a marker does on a non-stick surface. Okay? So that is why I like to color on glass, because you think, well, hello, it's non-stick. Why wouldn't you just smear your ink on this? Because my ink is going to bead up on this, and it's going to stay solid on this. And your medium never dries on the glass. So if I'm going to color, I would set up my palette, and then I would just go and color all of my cards, right? Because now I'm ready to color. I've got my workspace set up to color. Maybe you're going to color with distressed crayons, another cool medium to color with. A lot of people think with a distressed crayon, all you want to do with the crayon is open it out of the package. Now I'm just going to rip my package open. There you go. When I work with the crayons, a lot of times I can take this and I can scribble this on the glass as well, and I can pick up that color because that color is just going to become completely dissolvable with water. So let's take a tool, let's take a water brush, and just show you how this kind of works. Taking a water brush or a paintbrush with water, doesn't matter, whatever you have. First I'm going to prime it, so I'm going to squeeze it, make sure water drips out, and I'm ready to go. And I like that even though it's a clear glass, you can still see the water on there. I don't know if your camera's going to pick it up, but you can see when there's a wet medium on your mat. And I know this is my wet zone, right? The splash zone. So I don't have to work in my own mess anymore. That was the other thing about working on that space. If I was doing all my inking here, my paper always went back in my mess, or I had to clean up before I could put my paper down. Now I can go in, pick up my color, go in and watercolor right from that, right? If I want to create my own colors, I still have that whole mixing area down here that I can go in and just play around and mix my own custom colors. So this becomes that media tool. If I want to go in and pick up my marker, right? My marker is going to allow me to watercolor, and I get really rich color because so much of that marker was transferred onto the glass, right? If you ever watercolor with marker, there's not much that goes on this, right? When you pick up this color, because you watered it down, you don't have nearly the intensity you did when you picked it up off glass. There's a method to the madness. There really is. Crayon. This, we can really get this nice and wet, so then we go in and we have much more of that pigment, that intense pigment. So any of your mediums that you work with, you can use on the medium mat. Acrylic paint, any of that. Now when we work with this, one thing that I found is that when I'm done coloring, I don't just stick this over the top. You can, but then you're going to need to eventually clean it, right? Because if you have too much ink on there, it's not going to cling. And this was designed to have a silicone backing that wherever you put it, for whatever reason, it's not going to move on your glass mat. If you do any die cutting, like you have the sidekick, great place for that, right? It's going to suction onto that. So this just becomes your workspace. Now, cleaning. Super simple to go in and clean it with water. Just wipe that up. This, same thing. I can go and clean this up with water because these are water-based mediums. Now, let's say you had a solvent medium or something a little bit more permanent. Okay? Maybe you're using an acrylic paint or alcohol ink or something like that. Alcohol inks or solvents are great over this whole mat. Alcohol inks are not good on this. Okay? If you ever use alcohol ink, and it says it on the package, not that we read it, but it says it a couple places, do not use alcohol ink on this particular mat because it is a fabric. The alcohol ink will actually permeate the weave of it and it will stain it. Doesn't mean that it's not functional, it's just going to mean a whole lot of ugly that will never go away. Alright? Every other medium, acrylic paint, even solvent inks, they are going to be just fine on this mat, but if it's a fluid alcohol ink that can actually go in and soak, you're going to stain the mat. You may be okay with that. I have to say, I've learned to embrace it. Because as much as I know not to do it, guess who just forgot it was there? Yeah. Me. So just so you know that's going to happen. But what I'm doing is I'm putting permanent ink on both of these surfaces because now we're not dealing with something that is magically cleaned with water, right? We have a solvent ink, right? Something that doesn't necessarily want to come off. So my favorite thing to clean this with is hand sanitizer. Okay? Hand sanitizer, most people have. If not, you should. Shame on you. Okay? Yeah, there's an epidemic here with all this flu. All right. The reason I use this is because you can see it goes on as a blob, like gel. If you use an alcohol wipe, which you can, it tends to dry as soon as you go to use it, right? So this is going to allow me to really clean this off. And what I found with sanitizer that's crazy is it cleans off anything dry. This could have been collage medium, decoupage, paint that is dry and crusty that you go in and try to take it off. You put a drop of hand sanitizer and it is gone. It dissolves right through it. But we've also designed some tools because, well, if you're like me, you may be a bit of a messy crafter. Just a bit. I love the fact that this goes right over the top of that. and there's my space. Yeah, nice that I've got my wet and dry. But we've created some tools as well. Now these are just prototypes, so we're gonna have to do a little pretend game for this one, but I'll talk a little bit about it. These are the media tools, and what these include are a media scraper. Now the scraper, you may think, okay, I've got a plastic scraper, great. This isn't. This actually has glass in it, okay? Some glass particles, because we wanted a scraper that would not break down, not a scraper that would need replaced. This doesn't dull, this doesn't dent, okay? This is a totally different kind of plastic, and this is designed to scrape the craft mat. So when I get dry glue or paint and I need to scrape it, I can scrape it. It's not designed to scrape this. It won't do any damage to it. It's gonna make a horrible sound. It's gonna think like nails on a chalkboard. Yeah. So don't think, oh, I'm gonna scratch this up. You won't. You can cut on this. You can use your craft knife, your rotary tools, all of that right on this glass mat. But this is to kind of get those gunkety bits off. And what's nice is that it's got that cush grip that Tonic's known for, that little ridge right here from my finger. So it's really comfortable to actually grip that tool and go in and scrape things off. I like to use it also for burnishing. I found that even though I have a remnant rub tool with ideology, instead of holding that little tool, I'm like, game on, sucker. This rub-on's going on my card like quick. So you'll see that this little thing is really convenient to just have there, and it's a great tool. What is sold with this, because it's sold in a set, is called the Media Edge. And the edge has no markings. It is not a ruler. It is not for measuring, okay? We've already put that here, okay? What's on the base of your media mat is a lot of different measurement marks, and we did some interesting things because we wanted to think, how would you craft? How would you make? Well, first off, you know that if you are going to scrapbook, you have a 12 by 12 paper, this entire surface right here is going to measure 12 by 14. So I can put my scrapbook page down and still have that margin right and left. These all have different measurements. So for example, the bottom is going to go 0 to 14. So if I needed to actually measure something, if I put a piece of cardstock down and I placed it down, every box is an inch. Okay, because I'm really not a good measurer. I'm not going to pay attention to 1/32, 1/16. Not that smart, but I can count boxes and go, oh, this card is 1, 2, 3, okay? So you can place this wherever you want. This is going to give you your measurement going across. On this side from 0, it's going to give your measurement going up. These guys on this side, we wanted something for centering. Because maybe we're doing a layout, maybe we're doing a card, and we want to make sure that that thing is right in the center. So if I place my paper down and I look at my 0, I just need to make sure that my markings, my lines, match up. So here I've got my 3 and that little line, so I know that when I put my card on the mat, and I can put it anywhere I want in that row, I know that right there is 0 is center, okay? If I put it in the middle of my mat, then we're gonna really get fancy, there's also my center. So I've got 0 and 0, and I've got dead center. If you're a scrapbooker, same thing. You can place this down and you can know, oh, I wanna put this out like 2 inches from the center of my page. Well, you'll already know because we've got those centering marks to follow. This edge design has this extra little lip that is actually attached. It's screwed on to this edge, and that allows it to hang off of the mat. So by hanging off of the mat, now I have my straight edge, right? So if I'm going to place this down, I can put it down on my card, place this off the edge, and now I know that I have a straight line. So if I wanted to stamp my words, if I'm going to do foam stamps, if I'm going to do anything that I want, I know that I've got a straight edge. Or same thing, maybe you're just putting photos onto even a journal page. You can open up your art journal and lay it on because your space is big enough, and you can hang this off the edge, and I know that I'm going to be able to make sure things aren't crooked. Now it's got 2 sides to this edge. The first side is a tapered edge, okay? And this tapered edge is designed that if I go to use a pen or a marker or something like that, let's make sure this thing even works, okay? I can go along, and that's going to allow my pen to go right up against that edge. So a pen or a pencil, because it's tapered. Otherwise, if it was just that thick acrylic, we would have that kind of gap right there. So that's why we've tapered it. So any markings that you want to do, you're going to use the tapered side. This is where we enter the world of pretend. The other side will have a metal rod embedded into this edge, and that is for cutting, okay? We designed it on this side on purpose, because we don't want someone cutting from over here, because you're going to cut right into your wonderful mat, okay? That's why it's too short. It's designed that you're going to place it this way. So we're able to put our hand and we're going to cut. Now I know a lot of people are like, what about left-handed people? It's like, well, that could be phase 2. That's up to Tonic, not me. Yeah. I can tell you that this is designed that it goes up from the edge. There will be that metal rod, and I can take my knife and cut on that. So whether I'm doing a straight edge or a cutting edge, I've got that edge to do it. Now from a scrapbook realm, when I put this here, it's always going to cover my 12 by 12 paper. That's also important. So we wanted something long enough that once you put down a 12 by 12, or if you're working on a journaling page, you'd have that ability to always cover your page with the edge. So those are just some of the really cool and kind of simple features of the mat. There's a lot of other things that I do with this mat, but baby steps. I don't want to share it all because we're like, it's just too many things. To me, it does everything that you need it to do, because if I'm doing all of my gluing, I have the ability to take my ephemera now, put my ephemera here, take my collage medium, be real sloppy, and then glue it onto my project and not work in my own goo. And I don't worry about cleaning this. People go, oh, do I need to clean it every time? No, because your option is either scrape it off when it's dry, or when you're done, peel it off and go wash it. But now you've got that workspace. And I mean, what I was telling everyone is, doesn't matter what kind of craft we do. You're a card maker, a scrapbooker, a painter, a mixed media. Polymer clay is awesome on this because it is glass. Everybody needs a space to work in. And to me, this has created that space that whether you work on your kitchen table, whether you have a craft room, whatever that space is, when you go to a crop or a class, you bring this and this is your space. And I said, everybody that creates is going to need a Minimap. You need it. It's not like, oh, I'm going to put this over here to do my work. It's like, no, this is my workspace. And I'll be honest, I mean, from using a craft sheet for a bazillion years and not necessarily having that space, it got a little weird remembering like going over here. But let's talk about blending. When you blend on this, the blending is totally different. And I think this might help a lot of people that are blend challenged. I really will. Because the glass blends the ink completely different than this. This you'll see that when I blend, you can see how much medium goes on here because this is fabric, right? So this creates a drag. Okay, so believe it or not, when you're kind of that circular motion, that linen is kind of holding that tool, and that's where a lot of people sometimes get weird little marks. If you learn to blend on the glass, it's like a giant slip and slide, right? You're getting a lot more ink, a lot more play, there is no drag, and it makes blending so much easier because I'm able to get a lot more ink onto that surface than I did where I left it here. So that's a whole nother weird thing to train yourself. You're like, ooh, I'm inking, I better go to my no, I can go back here. So it's kind of finding that place.
Then you have to remember to clean that off, right?
Only if you wet it. So the ink is on there, but it's not going to come off unless I decide that I want to wet it, and then I can take it off. So as far as working in your own mess, it's not going to get all over your hands the way this will. It's glass. It's a game changer, I'm telling you. It's a space. Yeah, everyone's just like, I need to take one home. I need it.
I need it now.
I know.
Right now.
See?
Right now.
Yeah, just line up behind like here. Yeah. Will is like, I will take care of every single person. Yeah, they're actually shipping in February, so they're shipping next month. So that's really not bad to wait. And people have asked, I mean, because I did Facebook Live and we got all the questions of saying, do you have a storage case for it? Yes, it's called a box. So if you plan on traveling with it, keep the box, right? I really didn't think this would go.
I was actually just going to ask you that.
I'm like, I just don't think it would be good as a messenger bag. It's 6 pounds of glass and it's pretty big, so I couldn't imagine someone slinging it on your back. So if you wanted to take it, it does come, it's packaged beautifully. It comes with really hard plastic rubber corners, but keep the box if you want to tote it around, or it's tempered glass, so just throw it in your car and off you go. It's really been a good surface. All right, let's talk about some other things. We'll talk about this little guy, this little sports car. All right, someone was using this. I know, you can tell where these are. Let's talk about the platform, all right? So this is the travel platform. Do you have a regulation size anyway?
Yeah, I can get it.
Just because sometimes if you see it, it's so much easier to really get like how much smaller is it than the real one. I say real, thank you so much. All right, yeah, because sometimes you look at it and you're like, oh, it's the same. So this was, of course, the regular stamp platform, and this is the travel platform. Now, they do exactly the same thing. Same functionality, same everything, same magnetic surface, same acrylic lid that you can use any kind of solvent cleaners on, as long as you're not using acetone or mineral spirits. You can go in with your hand sanitizer, that's my cleaner of choice, but you can use any kind of inks. It's for rubber or clear. Everything is exactly the same, except there are some unique differences. And what I like about working with these two things is I do find myself that when I'm stamping cards, I tend to work on something larger because I am working on a bigger surface, right? I want to work with bigger stamps. But I do a lot of tags, and I know people that do a lot of planners and journals. They want to stamp smaller things. And let's face it, this is convenient. If you take classes or whatever, this guy is just, it's convenient. That's why we did it, for that whole portability. So let's do a couple of rules about this. I should bring mine over. This has no markings or anything. Wow, I need to bring mine over. Like, mine's legit. How did you even know what side is what? You just guessed?
Yeah, well, it's a little thicker on the other side.
My gosh, I'll bring you mine. You can keep it over here. Yeah, I'm like, and it has markings that you can't see. It's all the magic of television. We'll go into it later, but yeah. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So this one already has a little stamp. Perfect. I'll leave it there. So the whole thing about this, let me just give you a little tip on magnets, right? Because if you haven't used a tool like this before that has these magnets, these suckers are strong. Very strong magnets, and a lot of people don't realize that. And what happens is they're playing around, they click together, they're either going to pinch you or shatter. So I always say, think of these as fighters, right? They always want to clash. They want to get together, they want to fight. Keep them in opposite corners of the ring at all times. So when you use them, they're always going to go in opposite corners, okay? They never want to meet, they don't want to talk, they don't want to work it out. They are always going to fight, okay? So when you use them, keep that in mind. So if you're going to put this in there, I pick up one at a time. I don't pick them both up, because what's going to happen? They're going to want to, and you're right in the middle of that fight, and it's not a good place to be. Anyone that's done it knows you don't want to be there. So I pick one up, pick up the next, and you're ready to go. You are secure. When I'm done with them, opposite, see, it's easy. Just put them back in their corner. So that is my advice when it comes to working with these magnets. If you think about it, you're like, these things are going to fight. But they get close enough, there's going to be conflict. You're in the middle, all right? So the cool thing about it, of course, we have just the guides. I don't necessarily use that much. I just use this raised edge. I still love the fact that we've had that gridded top. We have the whole idea behind rubber and clear, the fact that we can use both types of stamps for that. But it is very, very convenient when it comes to working with it. So let me put this down. Take a little stamp just because we can. I always like to take my stamp and decide where I want to put it first. I know some people work totally backwards than how I like to do it, but it's like I can see the paper exactly where I want to put an image. This is a blank piece, so it doesn't really matter. Now, if you're unfamiliar with the platform, and I'll put it over this white area that you can see, the thing about the platform, it has a mark for rubber and a mark for clear, because it works with both rubber stamps and clear stamps. And all you need to do is read the word of the kind of stamp you're using. So I'm going to use rubber. So now that I read the word, I stand this straight up. It goes into this channel and it pivots. Because people say, on the platform, is there a top or a bottom or this? It's two parts of a platform. There is a top part of your platform and a bottom part of your platform. You need both of them to work. And this pivoting rod, it's not a hinge, it's a rod that actually pivots. So sometimes people go to use it and they just want to open it this much and they try to take this off and it's like, oh, the thing doesn't come off, it snaps. It's like, it does. If you just stand it straight up, it's designed to lift, okay? It doesn't come out at an angle. So all I'm going to do is close this up. That's going to transfer that stamp there. And then I can go in and use ink. And when we ink, I love that I can ink proper, ink with purpose, right? Not doing this, I don't have to worry about this caving in or collapsing. I can really go in with purpose and add my ink. And then I can just go in, what do I do with my other one? It's gotta be stuck to me. Yeah, I'm like, it's stuck to me. Story of my life, yeah. All right, just going to go in, lift this up, take a look at it, done. I wish it didn't work out so I could show you that I could do it again, but I'll show you some other things that we can do. So, back to their corners, let's just take a tag. Mayor of Tag Town right here. All right. Let's go in and we'll just take a stamp. Let's do this. And I've done watercolor. There's a lot of great videos, but let's just talk about that. Now see, that would normally freak you out, but you're going back. My stamp started there. So here I am going to just lightly swipe my ink. And I would do this with different colors of ink pads just to show you it's a great way to use a stamping tool. So I stamped in a very subtle color. Now I'm going to go in with that same ink. And now I'm just going to ink up parts of that. Let's go in again. And now I'm going to go in and just ink that flower again. And there, and stamp it again. And what you're able to do is really start creating depth from a single color just by repeatedly stamping it just in select areas, kind of shrinking it down. So if you were doing this with blues or pinks or yellows, you're really able to get an image that has more depth, right? We've got that rose that's really popped right there in the front and the background. And some people would never think to do that because you would think every time, oh, I've got to really go for it. No, the beauty of this is that I can swipe my ink, get that really soft background look, but now I can really highlight those two flowers. So when I color them, they look like you've cut them out and popped them off on the page. But you didn't. You just decided to use your ink and your platform for a whole reason. Great tools, and I think that the more you kind of use these tools for what they're designed to do, you know, a lot of people are saying, oh, this is the mistake tool, like it's going to make sure I don't screw up. Yeah, it'll do that too, but I like the fact that even if you know how to stamp and you stamp every time, playing around with your different levels of ink, you know, getting the ability to stamp detailed images on textured paper, that's what I love about the platform. And just the fact that it's travel, it's great. Next up, keychain version. See that? Yeah. We're just going to be monogramming our little journals. We're just going to just take one out of our pocket and just be like, Tonic is like, you're kidding.
It's the side order to your side order.
There you go. Yeah. We'll have magnets the size of little aspirin.
Yeah, they'll still fight.
But you know it will be cute. That's the problem.
And we'll want it.
Yeah, everyone would be like, I don't know what I do with it, but I think I need to have it. I know. I am one of you. It's like we see it, like buy, figure out later. Yeah. Buy it now, figure out what I'm going to do with it later. All right. Then we're just going to give an overview of the tools. So the tools, obviously we changed the color. We changed the color of the handles in the scissors, the shear, the minis, all the rotary tools. I don't know, do you have everything? Oh, you got it all. Yeah, the scratcher, the pick, the knife. And I just did that simply because, you know, I thought everything had a much more cohesive look. I think, you know, the more people are really taking their craft space seriously and kind of building their own studio, whether it's, you know, in a bedroom or in a kitchen or whatever, having the right tools are really important, and I think this became very neutral. It's really great if you have a nice clean white studio, or if you're kind of grungy or colorful, and I just thought it'd be fun to just go with that. I thought the whole program just looked cool with that. We also changed the color of the trimmer. If you're not familiar with the Guillotine Trimmer, man, this is life-changing as a card maker, right? Because what it's designed to do, it's very sharp. The friction actually sharpens these when you go to use it. It's not designed for chipboard or bookboard. It is designed for cardstock though, including watercolor paper. Every single box, that's going to be your 1/4 inch. So you can look up here and measure it, but you also have your 1/4 inch. If you have an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper, which I don't, note to self, tomorrow I will, I can quickly 1/4 cut it because of these little dotted lines right here. There is a dotted line, see that little dash that's going here? This one is at 5.5. This little dash is at 4 1/4. So if I had my 8.5 sheet of paper, I lay it down horizontal right up to that, cut it. I turn it again, cut it, and I don't even have to measure. I look at 2 dotted lines and I can 1/4 cut my cardstock for cards in seconds, right? I don't have to look. We know 4 1/4 by 5.5, but who wants to look at that? I want to look at a dotted line. I got things to do other than measure. I mean, it's a dumb thing, but it's important. But what I love about this is that when you put your paper in, it's got this clear guard that is designed for your fingers, okay? That is to keep them away from the blade, but also to keep your material from sliding. And then you're just going to go in and you're going to cut that. And what I love is that if you're doing even the slightest bit of trimming with this, it has the ability to cut it as thin as you want this to be. And this is watercolor cardstock. So this is 110 pound paper. So I love the fact that I can keep cutting thinner and thinner. I know, that's cute. So the people that, you know, you really want to trim up that great photo, and sometimes you put it in there, and if you tried this like with a side trimmer, that's not gonna happen. No, that side would be instantly distressed. Yeah, because you're gonna hit that corner and it's just going to take it. So these, because some people go, ooh, but I'm afraid, like it's gonna cut my fingers off. This is not automatic. This is not motorized. This is done by you. If your fingers are in the way, that was a choice you made. Right? Yeah. We've done everything we can to kind of help you, give you a landing pad, a little wall. We've helped any way we can. After that, it's a choice. That's all I can tell you. Yeah. It's the truth, right? It's a choice. Yeah. So like I cut my finger, I'm like, you chose that path. Like I didn't do that. So this is what makes this. Now, we've also, if you're not familiar with Tonic's other guillotine, is there a maxi guillotine here in the house? He'll have everything tomorrow. He's like, thanks. I wanted it. Thank you. All right. So this is not new to the world of Tonic. Tonic has had this tool in their line for quite a while, but it is new to me. And of course, Paula loves it because it is that. Yes. So that's what we did. We took this. Now, what's cool about this guy is if you are a scrapbooker, you don't have to worry about a giant trimmer, or even a mixed media artist. I say a lot of scrapbooking because to me that goes to 12 by 12. But let's face it, in mixed media, we're working with large sheets of paper to put in our art journals. We're doing sheets. So if you're working on paper larger than card size, we need a bigger trimmer. Now, I already told you why I don't necessarily like the slide trimmer, right? I want a big trimmer, but we can't take a 12 by 12 giant chopper with us, or can we? Okay? That's really what this one is. This one is designed that when you flip it over, it has a handle, and it has a guide, and it tells you, handle, extension ruler, that releases from the bottom. We're going to flip it over. We've got our handle. Now the handle is just going to go in, and that's going to just friction fit. Doesn't lock in, doesn't screw in, you don't need glue, it's just friction fit. And then on the side of this, there's a little trap door, a little springy door. You don't have to use it like that. If you're just doing regular sheets of paper, you're good to go. If you've got your big paper, we're in business, we're ready to go. But if we have a 12 by 12 piece of paper or something larger, we don't want it to hang off the edge because that's going to cause it to pull back from our blade. So all you need to do is take this, it inserts into this channel, it clicks in, and then it has a little kickstand. I'll try to show you for the camera. This little guy, there's our kickstand. So now when we're sitting on our surface, it's completely flat, completely stable. We don't have to worry about this dipping down. And it has a raised channel here. So when we have our paper is sitting in that channel, right? We don't have to worry about keeping it straight. It's going to lock in there. And this is going to go all the way up to 12 and a half. So it gives it that little bit of margin. And this is going to allow me to now go in, put in my paper, right? We'll pretend this is larger. Finger. This has a bit more of a spring pressure. And then we can just go in and cut it. And that is beautiful to be able to chop down journal pages or larger sheets of paper. And you can leave it set up like this, or when you're done, you're just going to squeeze that, pull this out, put away your kickstand. Now, if you want to take off your handle, in my studio, I just leave the handle on, right? I'm not going anywhere with it. But if you're going to go somewhere with it, just rest your thumb on the base and pull out on the handle, okay? Don't grab this, because that's a choice, right? Choice.
A bad one.
Yeah, a bad one. But I need to tell people because it's the obvious that you have to understand it was a choice you made, okay? There was no picture that says extend arm, wrap with fingers, and pull. So rest your thumb there and just pop that out. Then when we flip this over, you can see that the nice thing about this is that it's a friction. It's not going to swing open, okay? It's just going to stay there. And that's just going to allow me to go in and slide my handle back up there. Take this, we've got that little extension ruler, and that's just going to go in and pop right in so these pieces don't fall out. Cool, right? Yes, it is so nice. We have tools, we have cool tools to work with. Cutters and media mats and trimmers and media tools and scrapers and Tonic. It's where it's at, man.
Sheets of cardstock will be cutting.
I've cut 5.
Oh, that's
Yeah,
great.
pretty much if you see this channel, it's pretty thick. I've done really well with 5, but again, cardstock is now a very open term in our world right now, right? Because cardstock used to just pretty much be scrapbook paper.
Yes.
Some of it was pretty thin, but now when you say cardstock, we might think of, yeah. I would say if you're going to do 100 pound, you'd go 3. Yeah, like that's more of a watercolor cardstock. Yeah, it works really, really well. People said, can it cut chipboard? It can cut thinner chipboard, it really can, but if you're talking thick, like mat board or book board, no, it's really not for guillotine. It's just going to slide over. Yeah, cuts fabric really nice too. I was surprised how well it cuts fabric. Yeah, I think just because of that sheer sharpness of that guillotine, really does help me. But that's what I love about Tonic. I love the fact that, I mean, especially for this release, it's created a whole new environment of tools for mixed media. You know, I think that we are doing cards and scrapbook pages and all that, and now the tools are really branching out beyond just a paper craft, you know, because we want to do different things different days, which is great. Yes?
See the extension part? So does it have measurements and it goes up to 12 inches?
12 and a half.
12 and a half,
Yeah.
okay.
And that just pops right into the little door.
And then with the small one, is it self-sharpening?
They don't like to use the term self-sharpening.
Okay.
I would say yes. I would say it is not designed for replacement blades. The friction of it keeps the blades sharp.
Okay.
Yes.
I have had a version of this since 2003.
Correct.
And it
As
still
have I.
is sharp as the first one.
Correct.
Really?
Yes.
Wow,
And I
okay.
have prepped for classes. I have cut tens of thousands of sheets of paper and never replaced it. But when I say it's self-sharpening, they're like, yo dude, like, go out of the back. It's not. I'm like, okay, it will never dull. And they're like, yeah, never say never. Because, you know, someone will go in and try to file rocks and go, I dulled my blade. Yeah, so, but yes, it's something, that's really why it's not designed with replacement blades, because you don't have to worry about that. It's just like these. When these came out, everyone was concerned right away that these scissors were going to dull the first time they cut wire. And now,
No, they don't.
oh my gosh, people are doing everything. They're shearing sheep with them. They're doing all sorts of crazy, I do. I'm serious. Oh, I could write a book of how many uses for these scissors. Really? Yeah. Listen, it could be that way. Yeah. And on a more serious note, there was actually a thing, a lady sent me an article in the newspaper that the scissors saved her life. And they were on the front page of the paper. I have the article that she was driving home from a crop and it was on an icy night and her car went off the road and flipped over. And she was trapped hanging upside down with her seatbelt and she couldn't get out. And she looked down and her crop bag was there and she took the red scissors and cut herself out of the seatbelt. Saved her. Yeah. And she's like, your scissors saved my life. And I'm like, oh, that's sweet. She's like, no, serious. Well, you know, because I just thought, yeah, they are pretty convenient. Yeah, thanks. Yeah. And then she sent me that. I'm like, oh, you're serious? Like, yeah, it's good. So, yeah. But I mean, again, that's a tool that when these first hit the market, everyone's like, oh, come on, I got scissors. And then once you have them, and there again, you have Tonic that embraces the crazy thought of, hey, let's do scissors and let's not put anything on the outside, you know? Let's make all the handles squeezy. Like, but no, scissors have that metal bar. Yeah, but they don't need to, because when you have pork chop hands, like, I want them to go around my hand. I want them to fit however you put them on. And a lot of people don't realize that, because they go, do my red ones do that? Every one of
I
these.
didn't know that either.
They're all like that. There's no need for metal on the outside. It was just made like that, but I didn't want these made because when you want to pick them up, I just wanted any pair to just fit your hands. And these will cut right or left. So whether you're righty or lefty, you can test them. You're going to go home in your drawer like, do my, they do, yeah.
The original ones.
They all do that, yeah. Because it's not something that you think about, but because I use scissors so much that right here, man, after a little bit of cutting, it drives you crazy. Let me share another tip with you. These are micro serrated on one blade. And the micro serrated is that little jaggedy edge, and that is what is allowing that friction to keep these sharp almost indefinitely, right? They will sharpen, sharpen, sharpen. But sometimes when you use them, whatever they are, and you cut things like transparency or vellum, right? You won't necessarily notice with this, but sometimes if you do fussy cutting and you go around that vellum or transparency, you'll see those little teeth marks in that paper, that little jaggedy notch, and you're like, oh, it doesn't cut smooth. This is only micro serrated on one blade. So if you get that bump on the side that you want to see, all you do is take the scissor and flip them over. And then you're going to have that smooth blade on that edge. So if you're ever doing detail cutting and you're getting those notches where you don't want it, just flip your scissor over and you'll have that smooth edge. So it always cuts one smooth and one jaggedy. So that's another great feature of this. Makes it really, it's just the best. And whether you're cutting, as long as you're not cutting steel, you know, you're not trying to cut off the head of a nail or something, you know.
I have a dentist's office that I supply their scissors, and it's those. They cut the mouth guards, and they always want those.
They're awesome.
Yeah.
I cut wire with them.
Yeah.
You can cut everything.
Everything.
Tonic is the wave. It is the now. It is. It's just nice that we have now tools. That's all I can say. I mean, I just say, you know, without standing on the soapbox and go, it's about time. I just really think that's what it is. You know, we're all makers, and I think at this part in our industry, so many people have just embraced that mixed media, right? We're makers. Today I'm going to make a card. Tomorrow, who knows? I might do color clay. I might, you know, do knitting, whatever it is. And to have a company that really understands that, just give them the tools, and the right tools make all the difference. To me, this is only the beginning in what you're going to see coming out from Tonic, and that's just going to be some crazy cool tools, because we already have ideas lined up. Just like Tim, we need to just stop it right now. The show is in like, yeah, Will was out. He's like, so are we talking for this coming show? I'm like, that'd be really awesome. Okay. Yeah. So we did what we could, which I think is really awesome. So. Any questions on this stuff? Pretty cool stuff, right?
Yeah, that's amazing.
Really,
Very
really good.
impressed.
Yeah. It's awesome.
Try a pair of
It's awesome.
scissors.
Go for it.
I'll give them back.
Just remember, whatever you cut is a choice.
Yes, not a
So don't try your finger because it will take it. It is a choice.
Yeah.
If you cut yourself, it's a choice.
It's a choice.
Yeah, it is. Good.
About James.
You guys enjoying the show? Yes, thank you so much.
He's tired.
I know. He's like, can I get a tripod, please? Please, can I get a tripod? Yeah, those little guys, those little micro ones, those are great for detail cutting. Really good. And the
I
shears,
don't have these.
shears are awesome for fabric. But again, these are also designed for the card maker because I do a lot with 4 1/4 by 5 1/2, right? I quarter cut on my paper. But when I do a lot of things in journals, I just like to be able to take my scissor, open it, and just go in and make one cut. Cut that out. So that's really why I did this weird size. It's yeah, they're great for fabric. But I like the fact that if I pick this up, I did it a lot for Sizzix because when I do die cuts, I like to just chop my paper and then have it fit my die. And this just made me do like many movements. Yeah. And I could have this, but you know, these are really handy. I'm like, then you just start chopping up your paper. Yeah. Plus you can have little battles, like somebody else has a pair.
You're in the fighting mood today.
Because people, I walk around, everyone's like in such a serious mood. I'm like, guys, look around. We're at Creativation. This is where things happen and people share ideas and we are all the same kind. We all love the same thing. And to kind of be in here, it's like Comic-Con for crafters.
It is. It is.
Yeah, we come in our own stuff, we speak our own language, we talk about cool things that we see, and anyone else would be like, what? They craft for a living? And I love it.
It's hard to call it a job.
Yeah. Yes, they are. Yes, the shears are the same. They are. You're very welcome. Yeah, so all of them is that same blade technology. And you can, if you've never picked up a pair of Tonic scissors, you'll feel that friction just opening and closing. Thank you guys so much. Yeah, you'll feel that friction in the blades. That's what's really awesome about it. Yeah, very cool. Very awesome. All right, so did I do all right? Sure. Which size?
Just in it because I just want to show you.
All right. That was fun. Thank you for bringing that stuff by.
Thanks so much for watching us with Tim Holtz in the Tonic booth. Stay tuned for lots more videos coming from Creativation. We've got booth tours, there'll be more live videos and so much more. Don't forget to hit that subscribe button and give us a thumbs up for our video. And we'll see you again very soon from Creativation 2018. Bye!